Shannon. Oh, Shannon. Ghost. Yeah, it's lame without Pastora around. What a loss. What a monumental loss. In many contexts, I suppose. Monumental loss. Oh, it's Nat. What's going on now? How's your criminally adorable baby doing? I have a question while we wait. For how many guys are here right now? Oh shit, it's just Ghost. All right, I'm gonna wait. I have a question for later, but I need the opinion of several men. I guess actually no, women too, but still we'll wait. We'll wait. I have a very hot take question that I need answered. So we'll get there, which I guess is fitting for this evening in some sense. So Rodriguez, hello. So here's what we're doing. We're doing Bible study because that's why we're here. So we're going to do it. And then after that, we'll talk about the other stuff. So you have to sit through the actual reason that we all do this stuff. And then we can talk about the other things. Luckily, it's good tonight. It's a good one. It's 1 Corinthians 12, which is about the spiritual gifts, which is pretty hot and heavy. Pastora, you're lovely. We all miss you very much. We miss you being here, even though none of us were never physically around you. If that makes sense. It doesn't, but it does. And you know what I mean. Well, apparently I've missed a lot. Yeah, a little bit, Shannon. Probably more than you know, if we're being completely honest. Probably more than you know. In the name of love, what more? In the name of... Oh, I'd play the song, but it would be copyright. That's a great anthem for tonight. All right, so spiritual gifts. Good one. And we've touched on it a bit in other Corinthian areas because it's brought up a lot. It's one of the key things that gets talked about. It's very important. Primary reason is because the Corinthian church is using spiritual gifts in weird ways. They're doing things that were kind of unorthodox at the time. They're doing things that Paul never taught about. And so it became a topic of conversation of him trying to kind of smooth out what these things are, what they actually mean, what is the purpose of them, why do we have them, and are they individual or are they communal, are they corporate? So spiritual gifts. Now concerning spiritual gifts. The Greek that's used, it makes clear a shift from the last topic to this topic. So as you read through epistles from Paul or anybody or any part of the Bible at all, partly due to translation, partly due to us not having absolute full text, it's not always totally clear when things start and when things end. One of the things I think people don't think about a lot is that the Bibles that you read, they all have chapters, right? The Bible didn't have, like the scriptures didn't have chapters. And in the Bible you read, like this one here, it says spiritual gifts. Well, the scriptures didn't say that. There was no heading to each section. In many cases, these were just run-on scripts of words. So theologians over the years, academics had to kind of decide, okay, well, where does one topic start? Where does it end? Does his tone change? A lot of it was like contingent on the way the writer was writing, because they could say, okay, this is pretty drastically different. So we can probably assume this was written on a different day. So then, is it cohesive with what he was already writing? Meaning he just had to take a break and then come back to the same topic? Or is it completely out of touch with what he was just writing about? And is this a totally new thing that he's trying to get across? A totally new topic? So that's part of the way that comes across there. In Corinthians 2, you see this clear cut a total of 6 times, which is information nobody needs. But there it is. Brothers, I do not want you to be uninformed. You know that when you were pagans, which we've talked about a lot, you were led astray to mute idols. However, you were led. So pagans, big thing with Corinth. Well, because they were surrounded by pagans and because a lot of them were pagans. So he's being somewhat sarcastic, but he's also being literal because a lot of them were pagans turned Christian. And then the bigger problem was that a lot of them were pagan turned Christian and then went back to do pagan stuff and then brought the pagan stuff into the church. So he's being a bit of an ass, which is very nice. It's a beautiful thing to see. So he's literally calling them the Greek term. That means Gentiles, though, meaning non-Jews, also comes across. Paul's addressing the Gentile Christians specifically in this section. So the Gentile Jews at Corinth. All believers are involved, but there seems to be a specified push of this section right here towards Gentiles because it seems as though they kind of had a bigger problem than the Jews, the Christian Jews. Therefore, I want you to understand that no one speaking in the Spirit of God ever says Jesus is accursed. There's kind of a lot. So he's addressing the Corinthian believers, their concerns having to do with the spiritually inspired, the stuff that we would call maybe charismatic. Don't mean it in a derogatory sense. I mean it in kind of a, just so you can picture it sense. But this very spiritually inspired speech during worship was something that was happening. Easiest picture is to picture like an evangelical or the Holy Rollers, right? Which is fun. If that's your taste, that's fine. But that's kind of what was happening. So what he's trying to do is in a way, we assure them that nobody claiming to speak under influence of the Holy Spirit is able to say things that are counterproductive towards God. The insinuation is that people were engaging in this very spiritual type of talking or prayer or worship publicly, but we're also saying things that were counter-biblical or at the time counter Christ. And so he's saying these two things are not cohesive. If somebody is honestly like being filled with the Spirit and having this go on for them, then they are not able to speak something that is for us today would be counter-biblical. For them of the time would be just kind of counter Christ, what they knew about Christ, what was taught to them primarily in this case by Paul about Christ. It's not possible. So it's a very easy way, he's telling them, for you to see if somebody's full of shit or not. Does it match what you know? If it doesn't, then these people are the heretical teachers who are, I guess I'll just leave it at that. Actually, I've already swore several times. It's the heretical teachers. Speaking by the Spirit of God, the assumption again is that it's to overemphasize this idea on speaking in tongues amongst Christians is the general consensus. In my opinion, it's a general consensus from everything that I know. So what he's saying is that when people speak by the Spirit, again, the content will always be this, use a Christian word, it will always be edifying. Always. Always. And if it's not, again, that will be your way of knowing, well, this is trash. This is not real. This is bullshit. Same thing for today. If you go to a church and people are doing that very charismatic worship and prayer or speaking in tongues, but then a message comes after or during, I suppose, because you have somebody usually kind of transcribing or translating the tongues for the rest of the body. If the message that comes through that is counter-biblical or counter-Christ, you know that those people are just crazy, which is nice. We have this objective reference to go to know if somebody's just crazy or not. Jesus is accursed. The translation I'm not the biggest fan of personally, but the reference is to the speaking of a curse against Christ, insinuating that that was something that was happening. So the more accurate meaning or proper use of the term is really hard to find. From my experience, it's impossible to find a translation or a way to get across exactly what was happening or to understand exactly what was happening. There's just not enough. So it seems as though he's just kind of presenting a hypothetical in terms of what to look out for, which leaves it pretty broad and pretty open, but it also kind of makes sense if you think about it. And no one can say Jesus is Lord except in the Holy Spirit. 4. Now there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit, and there are varieties of service, but the same Lord, and there are varieties of activities, but it is the same God who empowers them all. The Corinthian people were massively overemphasizing the gifts in general. But the gift specifically here that he's talking about, again, is speaking in tongues. Specifically more during worship. So Paul he's beginning to kind of remind them that there are many kinds of gifts. There are many spiritual gifts. There are many things that may be bestowed upon you once you have the realization. That is not the only one. All of the gifts come from God. Speaking in tongues is not this special fancy thing. But Corinth being Corinth, like they do with everything, whatever seems more spiritual, whatever seems more, and it's the same today. That's why, I feel like I feel like the church today is so much like Corinth. We have these celebrity pastors who, the faster you talk, the better it sounds, the more one-liners you have that turn into reels on Instagram, the better the pastor you are. That's how it works. And it was no different at all. So the more spiritual you sounded, the more they were into it. The more Corinth was like, F yeah, this is it. That's spirituality, which is why they were all being led astray by heretical teachers who weren't teaching Christianity, but were teaching something very close to it, because they took Christianity and they made it sound a lot better. Just like the pastors today, the celebrity pastors. They take something that is biblical and then they make it something not biblical, but they make it sound really good. And so everybody completely falls like sheep to the slaughter to it. 7. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good. Big piece, huge piece. One of the most important things about spiritual gifts, in my opinion, is that he's emphasizing that not only is there a wide spectrum of spiritual gifts, there's massive diversity among the gifts that are possible. The gifts will show the activity of what is going on, in a sense of how God is interacting with the church, which to me is really interesting because it kind of counteracts a lot of my thesis personally about God's interaction with the world. And I'm not going to go through it all, but I've said I don't think God's super interactive. But what I do say is I think the only way God interacts today is through people. I think people are used. And so spiritual gifts, I think, is one way that God is still communicating or still moving in the world today, is through people who have a gift to do something, whether it's your gift to teach or your gift of discernment, which helps the people who are around you. Any of it will benefit those who are around you because it is communal. But also, if you believe it's a spiritual gift, without needing to really think about it, that is obviously something that is coming from God. So it's a way that God is interacting with the community as a whole. So Paul is kind of showing that every person, every individual has something. It doesn't need to be speaking in tongues because all of these things come from the same place. You're just overemphasizing this fancy gift of speaking in tongues. Many people have multiple gifts. And I think if people fall into wanting a gift, I think oftentimes that means that's not what you're supposed to be doing. That's anecdotal, but just a thought. 4 to 1 is given through the Spirit the utterance of wisdom. Translation might say words of wisdom. Same thing. Utterance is just fancy. So the Greek that's used there, it isn't 100% clear, but it alludes to Paul when he was talking earlier in 2 Corinthians in chapter 1, but that there should be this understanding that in light of his teaching about wisdom from the Spirit, there is more to it. The emphasis should not be the emphasis, is not on the actual wisdom itself, but the emphasis is on what is being produced from it. So that what should be important is not the wisdom that the individual has. What is important is how the individual conveys the wisdom that they receive, if that makes more sense after stumbling. The wisdom is of less value than what is done with it. If you are given some kind of wisdom to bestow upon other people, and you don't know how to convey it, or you don't convey it properly, or you don't care to convey it, you isolate, you don't give in to whatever that gift is, then it's useless. It's worth nothing in this context. And to another, the utterance of knowledge, very similar, right? But it more specifically seems like Paul is addressing, again, the gifts that they're highlighting. So it seems like Paul is he's taking one thing and he's specifying it for this specific church because they have a specific problem with it. So because the Corinthians are overemphasizing knowledge, which is a huge thing we've talked about 1,000 times, but it was just part of culture. The culture was really big on knowledge. They were really big on philosophy. It was like their thing. So if you had knowledge, you were super special and you were worth more than other people who are around you. But he's trying to highlight that this concept of pride will ruin it. And the reason he's doing that is because that's what they're doing. So people who claim to have word of knowledge or utterance of knowledge are not using it properly. And many don't have it actually, but they're trying to have it. But the ones that do have it, they're using it in inappropriate ways, or they're conveying messages that are not proper. So it likely has something to do with people enriching themselves, which we know is a problem. The spectrum of classes has been a problem throughout all of Corinth because it was a huge thing that they were dealing with. All right, give me 1 second. But Joe, it starts now concerning spiritual gifts. Yeah, so it's clear. That one's relatively clear. But there's only 6, if you think about it. So go through, she's referring to one at the very beginning when I was talking about the splits in different texts. But go through the rest of 2 Corinthians. Go through the whole thing. There are only 6 times that happens, yet we have more than double the chapters. And within those chapters, we have probably another double of sectioned paragraphs with titles. So it's some are clear, most are not. The way more than 50% of the whole Bible, it's not clear. Some kind of are. Who's having another baby? Who's pregnant? What did I miss? You can't just show up and be pregnant. There needs to be like a lead up to that. We need like a phone call, a text perhaps, an email. Graves, good to see you. Don't forget to, Kat's doing the YouTube stuff. Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, do the YouTube stuff, but I don't know if it even helps at this point. I think I've completely blackballed myself. All right, verse 9. Who's pregnant? Who? Nat, are you pregnant again with another criminally adorable baby? Is that true? You're not allowed to get pregnant that many times that quick. I feel like there are restrictions on this. If there's not, there probably will be with the way that the world is going. Verse 9. To another, faith by the Spirit. He's listing the spiritual gifts in case you have a short attention span and you don't remember what we're talking about anymore. So utterance of wisdom, utterance of knowledge, and now it's faith by the Spirit. In other words, faith. So since Paul is grouping this with other gifts, like supernatural, spiritual gifts, what he probably means is that it's a kind of faith that is abnormal. It is a kind of faith that accomplishes something or has some kind of outcome. Or it achieves something. It's not general faith because that wouldn't make sense. So you can deduce that and be like, that doesn't make sense. So what could he possibly mean? It's some kind of abnormal, extraordinary kind of faith that unfortunately you don't really get too much of an explanation on ever. To another, gifts of healing by the same Spirit. The healing, kind of interesting, kind of hard. So the gift of healing, whoever gets this, God will use the person to restore, is kind of the concept that is generally accepted. The Greek term can be used to refer to several things. So it could be a spiritual healing, like a spiritual restorative process. It could be a physical healing. So it doesn't specify one or the other. But the word, it has to do with restoring someone's health in most cases. Many of the uses in religious texts, though, will be more geared toward somebody's their reconciliation to God, which is interesting because that would make it a third. So depending on what you believe and who you want to believe, physical healing, spiritual restoration or healing, in a point blank or a from baseline sense. But it could also, due to what we know about other uses of the word outside of this specific context, it's used often in bringing people back to God. So restoring someone who has lost their relationship with God, which I just think is kind of interesting. 10. To another, the working of miracles. Now it becomes a bit on the more complicated side. The Greek used might be a literal, it might be literally rendered as a movement of power, I believe is the term. Hold on, actually, I have it written down. It's like the movement or the activities of power is how it's often referred to in English. So this too would be something extraordinary. It would be abnormal. Activities of something such as demonic work. Other sources will say it could have something to do with raising the dead. The reason for that is actually we get it from Acts, which is where we get everything, basically, in the New Testament, is from Acts. There's some indication because similar word is used. Take it or leave it. It doesn't necessarily involve what we just read as like a healing of physical issue type of thing. It's on a different level. It's more of miraculous powers on a spiritual level, but often used in terms of healing and raising people from the dead. So take that or leave that. That's up to you. Working with miracles. To another, prophecy. To another, the ability to distinguish between spirits. To another, various kinds of tongues. Here we go. To another, the interpretation of tongues. A lot here. So, prophecy. Speak that is inspired by the Holy Spirit. Or in the ESV, it's utterances of the Holy Spirit, inspired by the Holy Spirit. Similar to Old Testament prophets. I have an eyelash that is poking my eyeball. I do apologize if I'm blinking way too much. So similar to Old Testament prophets or Old Testament prophecy, there is a social aspect to prophecy. In most cases, in my opinion, prophecy isn't really a solo thing. It's not for you. Doesn't seem. This is something that edifies the body. It helps the body. Just like all spiritual gifts to some degree seem to be primarily for the community, not for you. You might benefit from them, but they're not for you, baby girl. They're for everybody. So this would be obviously the same. This could be many things though. It could be pulling people to redemption. It could be pulling people to repentance. All of these things could fall under prophecy from the normal biblical standard or the normal biblical interpretation. Revealing future plans would also obviously be a part of it. There's some disagreement. I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago about whether prophets still exist today. I found out, this is a fun time to mention this, Kat. This is a great time for this. I find out that one of the guys I worked for when I was at the construction company before I recently left to pull up or go on a new venture of life. One of the guys who is basically the manager of safety. He is a wild Pentecostal charismatic preacher. And Cat found his Facebook. And he is like what I was talking about earlier. It is like the cookie cutter version. It's exactly the image that I hope everybody thinks in their head when I'm talking about charismatic Christians. Nothing against him. He's the nicest dude ever. He's very respectful. He's good at his job. Good, like all around good dude. And I've said it a million times. I don't care how you decide to like go about your Christianity. If you're super out there with the sweat cloth and doing your thing, baby, that's fine. Like do your thing. If that works for you and it gets people riled up and whatever, as long as it is backed by truth, I don't care. I don't care. If you start doing the forehead push and the, oh, Lord Jesus, then I have a bit of a problem. But up until that point, if you just want to be a little out there at the pulpit, I don't have any sort of issue with that whatsoever. I think it's great. I think people stay involved that way. When I was actually preaching, I was much more lively than I am when we do these types of things. But definitely not like that. But it was just really funny to see this guy who was always very prim and proper and very, very soft spoken and very respectful to be up there with the sweat rag. Like, oh, it was great. It was really, really great. I don't at all remember where I was now. So I'm just going to pick up like halfway through my little spiel about prophecy, and then we'll see what happens. Prophecy would include predictions of the future. That's where I was. We were talking about, we recently had a conversation where we kind of had some disagreements on whether anybody's prophet. That's actually why I was talking about that. His Facebook says that he's a prophet. That's why I brought that up. We come full circle. We just came full circle. So he self-describes himself as a prophet. I do have a problem with that. So sorry, I'm not going to say your name out of respect. But if you ever see this by any chance, I do have an issue with that. The videos I saw were great, though. You have great energy. You killed it, bro. It was awesome. But anyways, beside the point. Prophecy is intended to encourage people. It's the primary purpose of it. In most cases. It's intended to encourage people. It should never confuse people. One of the key ways, in my opinion, based on scripture, to understand if somebody is full of shit or not, with prophecy, is, does it confuse you? Obviously, some people would be confused at things that are very simple. But the average person with average intelligence, who understands the Bible to an average degree, does it confuse them about anything having to do with God or the Bible? And if so, it's probably not real. My 2 cents. All right, good. The next one was what? The ability to distinguish between spirits. A lot of argument about what exactly this means, but in general, I suppose it allows an individual who harnesses said gift to recognize whether other people harnessing other gifts are coming from a good place or not, is one use. So one example would be like speaking in tongues. Somebody who has the gift of distinguishing spirits might see Kenneth Copeland speaking in tongues, the demon pastor, speaking in tongues. And because I have the ability to distinguish between spirits, I can see that dude's not a Christian. That dude's a fucking demon. Very clear to me. Obviously, it's not clear to everybody else because that dude has a church with, hundreds of thousands of people that are members and giving him money, who are Christian people. So those people don't have the gift of distinguishing between spirits. That is obvious because that dude is literally a demon. Great example for kind of what I'm talking about. It also might involve the ability to distinguish between, in general, good and evil spirits. So whether activity is happening currently, like Kenneth Copeland speaking in tongues, taking your money, just in general, you walk into a grocery store and there is some kind of evil entity or something. That is another pretty common belief about what that gift could entail and how it might be used. Cool. Next one was various kinds of tongues. So speaking in tongues. Obviously, like tons of argument about this. We've talked about it ad nauseum. I am of the 85 to 90% firm position. It was language. That's it. There is some indication that it wasn't that simple. But I think we have more to argue that it was just the ability to convey languages to people that those people didn't know and that you didn't know. So if I'm in Europe and I don't speak Dutch and I'm talking to a Hispanic dude, I can translate from a language I don't speak to the Spanish dude who's, oh my God, that was loud. To the Spanish dude who doesn't speak the same language either, and I don't speak his language. It's the ability to cross the plane of language and convey messages to people. The other belief is obviously what most people think of when they think about spiritual gifts. It's people, and I don't mean this in a rude way, it's just the best way to get it across, speaking gibberish that's supposed to be a message from the spirit, and then somebody else is supposed to be there to interpret that language, which we'll get into here in a second. But that's a belief. The Greek word is used both for literal, physical tongue, and also for kind of the metaphorical speech and language aspect of it. Now to the next, that leads you in interpretation of tongues, which is one of the things that kind of makes it difficult to fully understand what is happening. Is it just the ability to cross the language barrier? Or is it that it's a language nobody knows? And so one person gets the message and another person translates the message. The interesting thing about this is I wonder, so say you have person A, who is the speaker of tongues, and you have person B, who is the interpreter of the tongues. And I've heard a million different answers for this, so I'm asking rhetorically, but if person A is the speaker of tongues, do they understand what they're saying? Or do not even they understand what they're saying? And person B is the absolute decider of the message that goes out to the body. My question is, who checks that person? Who is then interpreting from that person? Who is the spiritual bathroom buddy to that dude to make sure they are in check? Or is it just checked to what they know about Christ? Is it just checked to what they know about, to what we today would know about Scripture? There's no answers, so it's just something to think about. Let me make sure I haven't missed anything. Jeremiah, baby Billy Freeman. I hope to God that is the name of the next baby that comes from your family. It's the same with Mormons, Joe. They have the glaze, you can't ignore it once you see it. I don't disagree. You look like a whole bro in that tank top. I usually have a freaking tie on. Give me a break. I'm not going to put a tie on for Sunday night Bible study. Sorry. Parsing ideas, it assumes objectivism is true. Y'all, that man he's talking about is going to be in my shop for 3 days. Yeah, he is. He's coming here. I want to talk to him so bad, though, to be just completely honest. Like, why do you call yourself a prophet? Of everything else I get, I'm all for the rah-rah Christian. Like, it's awesome. But calling yourself a prophet, just, that rubs me the wrong way. Mikhail, Deuteronomy 34:10, there has never again been a prophet in Israel like Moses. Person 1 speaks English, person 2 speaks Japanese and English, audience speaks Japanese. Yeah. Multilingual speakers act as bridges. Yeah, agreed. Joe, I hate you for that. Yeah, I agree. The tongues thing is rough. What time is it? All right, cool. We're going to jam through the rest of the... we're doing all right. All right, so one body with many members. One body with many members. So as an example, the actual scribes that we get this from don't have that title. It doesn't exist. So all they do is they read verse 11, which doesn't have a verse number for them. They read it and then they go, for just as the body is one has many members, they're like, oh, that's a great place to break this up because now he's going on to something else. But it is not one of the super hard cuts that you find between topics in 2 Corinthians. That's, Rodriguez, kind of what I was pointing out. There are only 6, yet there are probably 30 to 40 of these cut paragraphs. Dudes just decided to do that. Most of them make pretty good sense, but that's just something people did. It in no way reflects, the way the scriptures were actually written. 12, for just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. He's obviously referring to the community, the church body. In Acts 9:4, it says, and falling to the ground, he heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? So the risen Christ there, Christ himself, considered the context or the topic of the persecution of the church. And how do you say it? He considered the persecution of the church to be persecution of him, Jesus. So there are several points in the New Testament where that kind of message comes across, that the persecution, I think it's 2 Thessalonians 2 is one of the other ones. The persecution of the church is persecution of Christ himself, which is a pretty heavy thing to say. 13, for in one spirit we were all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and all were made to drink of one spirit. In one spirit, by one spirit, depending on your translation. In one spirit is probably better, but it doesn't really matter. The in one spirit, it gives the impression that the spirit and the body of Christ, or that it ensues the body of Christ into which the believers are placed. They have kind of a matching placement. Let me try this again. I'm having a hard time trying to express what I'm trying to say. So in one spirit versus by one spirit. In one spirit, it creates this kind of image. It gives you the impression that the spirit and the body of Christ, they're synonymous in relationship. They're the same, which goes back to the same thing. Persecution of Christ is persecution of the church is persecution of Christ. These things are synonymous, is at least the message that is trying to be pushed across. Slaves are free. Actually, baptized. No, slaves are free. So free persons is what most translations say, not slaves are free. Most translations say free persons. It's literally referring to those who are freed from slavery. There is some argument about whether it's referring to people who are metaphorically freed from slavery, people who are freed from the today, for the secular world, for us today. If you become free from the secular world, you are now under, everything is different. Your entire life is different. Your perspective is different. You are then freed from slavery. But it also, the actual words could mean literal slavery. We're made to drink of one spirit. For the body does not consist of one member, but of many. If the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less a part of the body. This sounds like conversations that we have today, in today's society, where some things are very obvious about life and reality, yet we have people who say, I am not a part of the body, when they are quite literally a foot. Moving on. 16, and if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less a part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing? Where would it be? If the whole body were an ear, where would be the sense of smell? But as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them, as he chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, yet one body. What a freaking beautiful section for this evening's escapade. God arranged the members just as he wanted, as he chose. He's highlighting the ignorance and the absurdity of the Corinthian church because of their childish, selfish, blinded behavior. That's what he's doing. A body is composed of a single part is not a body at all. If your body is composed of this, has this singularity, it's not a body. You're just parts. In a sense, you're kind of useless because there's no function. If there's no function in a body, it's useless. It's the same thing for actual, real Christian people who are actually dedicated and trying to do something with their life because they genuinely believe that this wild shit that we talk about is actually for real. Because if it's for real, that should be pretty obvious. That on your own, without the body, without the church, without your people, what in this world, what really are you? It's kind of brutal, but it's kind of absolutely true. If I didn't have the things that I have, if I didn't have you guys, if I didn't have Kat and the body that I have around me, if I didn't have the whole of which I'm a part of, what the hell would I be? Like what would the purpose of me be? A lot of people push back on that. You're pushing back on the Bible pretty hard. In terms of Christianity, in terms of secular world, yeah, baby girl, it's all about you. It's all about you and what you want, and you're so special. And even if your wife or your husband leaves you, you're still so special. You're really, really important all by yourself. You're really important even if you contribute nothing to the body, to society. You're really, really important because that's the world today. That's absolute bullshit. And if you're a Christian, you should definitely agree with that. And if you're a Christian in the context of a church, you should absolutely agree with that. And if you're not producing that which is good, productive, at least in some sense, everybody's going to fuck up and slip sometimes, excuse me. It's going to happen for sure. But if the general format and function of you as an individual is not adding to the body, is not being a part of something that is greater and trying to keep the body functioning, that's real shitty. Real shitty. All right. As it is, there are many parts, yet one body. He's reminding them, because their minds are fickle, he's reminding the Corinthian people to focus on the unity. There are many, yet one body. There are many of you with differing personalities, with differing opinions, with differing outlooks on life, doing different things in your personal life, which make your personality different. They make the way that you interact with people different. And a lot of that will cause you to clash or have some kind of problem. It doesn't matter. There still requires a sense of unity. In this context, the spiritual gifts were causing division among the church. Their beliefs about them, their opinions of them, the uses of them, the importance of them, all of these things cause division in the church. So he's telling them he's reminding them that unity is really important. They have to have the ability to appreciate what makes them the same, what makes them one. And what makes people the same who otherwise have nothing in common, who otherwise would argue about absolutely everything, is your belief, is God. And the funny thing is that really smart people and really spiritual people will allow the stupid shit that doesn't matter at all, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter at all. They will allow it to cloud that which matters infinitely. So an example would be if I start arguing with Kat about some shit like doing dishes, or maybe her and I don't see something even as drastic as abortion the same way, or we want to vote for different people in the next presidential election or something. Even something drastic. Could be dishes, could be I want to vote for Jim Bob and she wants to vote for Sharon. If we allow our difference on that to disrupt our unity, we ruin everything. We ruin all of the good that we do together, spiritually and otherwise. We ruin our ability to co-parent. We ruin our ability to make money. Hold on one sec. We lose it all. Everything goes down the drain. And the ironic part is, who gives a shit who the president is going to be when the greater context is coming from people who believe you, when you die, you will either live forever or you will fucking burn. The inability to have perspective on what actually matters, especially today with the social climate and the economic climate and the political climate The number of people who are completely blinded by the shit that doesn't matter at all is incredible to me. It's wild to me. Coming from strong Christian people is fucking crazy. It's crazy. Unity. It's required. And so says the Bible. If you cannot have unity, leave the church. And by leave, I mean you get booted. So says Paul, who is the only reference to how you actually deal with that in the Bible. So unless you're going to make up your own version of what to do if people can't get along, it is the only indication we have of what to do when people can't get along. Those who cause problems get removed from the church. Paul dealt with that at Corinth. It's a part of this, which is why he's pushing them so much to unity. You have to have the unity. 21. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. On the contrary, the parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable. The parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable. This specifically is in reference to the poor people. Because if you remember, the biggest issue at one of the biggest problems, actually, it's probably the biggest problem underneath a bunch of other problems, is the social class offset at Corinth. You had people who are really, really wealthy, and you had people who are really, really poor. This is most likely in reference to that. However, I think you could extrapolate to other things, but he's talking specifically about probably the poor believers and them seeming to be weak to the people who have more. Because again, social status and wealth were entirely tied to this fake spirituality. So the fake spiritual people were also the rich people, and they looked down and saw the poor people as weaker Christians just because of the socioeconomic status. Which again, like, isn't that different than today, in my opinion. It's pretty similar. But they're indispensable. And on those parts of the body that we think less honorable, we bestow the greater honor. And our unpresentable parts are treated with greater modesty, which our presentable parts do not require. But God has so composed the body, giving greater honor to the part that lacked it, that there may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. The obvious push that in this context, that the wealthy believers, the wealthy Corinthians, have to show consideration and understanding for those needs of those who were not on the same socioeconomic level. Specifically, if you were with us when we talked about the Lord's Supper, because that was a problem. The way the Lord's Supper was happening was real bad. And it's a reference to that. That was in it was in 1 Corinthians. But that was a shit show. The Lord's Supper. It was rich people versus poor people. Rich people showing up drunk, eating all the good food. Poor people basically getting table scraps, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of the Lord's Supper. So he's pushing the wealthy believers that they need to be considerate, they need to understand, they need to be respectful of the needs of the poorer people at Corinth, especially at the Lord's Supper. He made that pretty clear. Do all possess gifts of healing? Do all speak with tongues? Do all interpret? Rhetorical, but earnestly desire the higher gifts. And I will show you a still more excellent way. All right, let me see if there was. Yeah, no, I feel like I've ranted enough about that. I think we're all set. Scott said, like organs that are weak if not protected by the outer parts, these parts are surrounded and protected by the other parts. Yeah, that's well said. I like that. That's good. That's a good way to put it. They were drinking during service. No, the Lord's Supper wasn't service. The Lord's Supper was like the meal after. They were going to dinner essentially, and the rich people were showing up and getting drunk while they were there. And the poor people, because they were poor, didn't have as much or any access to alcohol. So the rich people were just kind of shit-faced at dinner, and the poor people were there and they were stuffing their face with good food. And the poor people were showing up late because the rich people got there early to drink, and the poor people didn't have much to eat. They got like the table scraps, and also they had to deal with a bunch of drunk rich people. Kind of the worst possible situation. It's like going to IHOP after church with your church, and all the people with money are shit-faced, super drunk. And all of the poor people who are part of your church are like, what is going on? The rich people ate all the pancakes. They used all of the syrup. There is no more coffee. There's no more of those little jelly packets that are really good, to put on your toast. There's none of that. It's all gone because the drunk rich people already ate it all. And you show up there with your kids and you're eating like the scraps of their pancakes, is basically what it seems was happening. Seems to me Paul must have read Plato. The concept of the one and the many. Elaborated. I need to read that. Is that popular? I've read like most of Plato's popular text, but I've definitely not read all of it. If that's worth it, let me know, and I will get my. Is it full length or is it a short one? We need a book club type situation. Book club. What do you mean? Like in Discord? I would love a book club. I always say I read a lot, but I don't. I listen to audiobooks a lot. I like a lot. I listen to probably like 10 hours of audiobooks a week, roughly. Mikkel is our book club. That's fair. But victimhood, Joe, and empowerment. Mommy and daddy told me I'm special, so give me money. I don't follow. Oh, what was going on here? Scott, unknown tongues speaketh not unto. Oh, we're going KJV, bro. Speaketh not unto men, but unto God. For no man understandeth him. Yeah, what verse is that? Here's the thing. I can't trust the King James. It's just not good. It's just real bad. But where is that from? We can take a look at it real quick. Where we pick a book and I'll read it together, then meet and discuss the book. Okay, I just wasn't sure if you were talking about like actually doing that literally in Discord, or if you meant in general Christians should be doing book club type situations. I mean I'm down, but we'd have to figure out how to make that work. Like people would then they'd have to buy a book. So I don't know if most people are willing or able to purchase books on the regular. I don't know, but it's something we could definitely talk about. I would have no problem keeping up with that because I read quite a bit. I listen to things quite a bit. Need to be honest about the format of my stuff. All right, so pulling up Scott's verse here. Hold on. For one who speaks in tongues speaks not to men, but to God. For no one understands him, but he utters mysteries in spirit. So we did talk about this briefly when we were in 1 Corinthians. This is a part of why it's so difficult to really know what to believe, because then you just read in 2 Corinthians, somebody is to interpret. So, not to men, but to God, for no one understands him. However, in 2 Corinthians, somebody is there to interpret it. Therefore, they understand it. This is why I said what I said, where I think there is more indication that speaking in tongues was language. However, I was honest in saying it's not enough to say that something else couldn't also be going on, because there is some scripture that you just can't ignore. It's there, so you have to acknowledge it and be honest that I don't know the answer to this. It's not cohesive. They're not cohesive with each other. In fact, they're contradictory. And it's not the only part of the Bible that's contradictory. That does exist. They're just things that you kind of have to wrestle with and find a personal opinion on what you think makes the most sense to you based on scripture. There is no right, there is no wrong. Otherwise, all Christians would be basically doing the same thing. It's just a reality. You read with your ears, Joe. No shame. Thank you. That makes me feel better. I couldn't imagine sitting down. But like, Cat can say, but like, we probably lay down for a total of like 30 minutes a day. It would like literally be the last 30 minutes of every day, and that's like my time to be with her. I couldn't imagine sitting with a book and doing that. You know, we live in 2024. I have to like listen while I'm doing things throughout the day. It just makes more sense. It's just utility, you know? I'm being very utility. No beer money or food. There's a book channel in Discord. Yeah, but he wants to do a book club where we all read the same book and then we gather and we talk about the book. I think it's a phenomenal idea. And actually, I've talked to Kat a handful of times about I want to do like book reviews. Like take Christian books, read them, and then do, 30-minute videos like going through the book. Like breaking it down basically how we do the Bible. Basically just putting Christian books on blast. For the most part. But like in a good way too. If they're good, they're good. But it would just be like my opinion. It's not objective. Okay. All right. So hold on one second. The Discord voice channel is open. What I'm gonna do is actually, yeah, we're just gonna leave it up. So what we're going to do is talk about what is going on in Discord. This is not going to be a long thing at all, because I think it's ridiculous if it needs to be. So we're going to go over everything that is or was happening, and then we're all going to move on. And here's the thing. If you can't move on, it's probably best you cut ties. If you choose to not move on and also not cut ties, and things continue, I will cut ties for you, and you will be removed. So we're going to go over the rules of the Discord, which have always existed. I cleaned them up and made them look prettier so that it's easier for everybody to come back here and refer to them. There will be zero tolerance for bullshit. I'm over it. There was really good culture here forever. Until relatively recently. We've had almost no problems outside of a few things that were mostly personality issues. It's progressed to something that I don't recognize for us, but I do recognize it for a website that I had, a forum. It was the biggest theology forum on the internet. And all they did was argue, so I fucking killed it. It made me decent money, by the way. About what would it be? Probably 150 times the money that everything else makes for doing all this stuff now. It made a lot of money. It was really successful. I completely took it off the internet because it was disgusting watching Christian people not act like Christians. People slip, people have problems, everybody. Oh my God. I'm so sorry if you guys can hear that. That's so loud. Everybody messes up. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody gets rude. Everybody's an asshole sometimes. It's always going to happen. The problem is if you become a perpetual issue, meaning you're doing it over and over and over again. If every time it seems like you're around, things get controversial. That's not why we're here. It's not what we do. At least the website that I shut down, they were arguing about God. I put this in the thing I posted on Discord. They were at least arguing about theology. We're not. We're arguing about shit that is not for here. So, brief overview of some of the things that have been going on. Nothing specific at all, because this isn't about one thing. It's about a lot of things. A brief overview of topics that are absolutely not allowed to be talked about on the Discord whatsoever. I do not give a shit about the context. They're not allowed. Men's suffering, not allowed. Women's suffering, not allowed. You can DM each other, you can talk to each other. And what I mean by men's suffering and women's suffering is there will be no putting out memes or putting out things from Instagram or from Twitter or from TikTok that are specifically about the plight of a gender. If that's something you need to talk about, I understand that. But do it in DMs with people that you know personally. It's not something for the public. It would be like going into the grocery store or going to your local church and I want you to imagine that the memes and the stuff that is very controversial that everybody, has posted on Discord. I want you to imagine taking that meme or whatever you posted, walking into a church, taking the microphone, and then expressing that there. It's not appropriate. It's not why they're there. Nobody goes to church to deal with that bullshit. We all are on social media. We all go to work. We all have kids in school. We get enough of all of that shit. Zero. You can DM. You can have group DMs where 10 of you are in a DM group. It's a private conversation where if somebody wants to not be a part of your conversation, they can leave the group. Nobody can just leave a section in Discord. They can, but they shouldn't have to. Nobody should have to. So that is a private conversation. And it's not just one side. This is all for both sides. Neither can do it. It's done. Men suffering, women suffering. And you know exactly what I mean when I say it. It doesn't mean you can't talk about things that you're struggling with. It doesn't mean that's not what I'm saying. And you damn well know it's not what I'm saying. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So there will be none of that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're probably fine. So don't even worry about it. Men being bad, not allowed. Women being bad, not allowed. If there are posts where men are talking shit about women in general, women being a collective group of beautiful people walking the earth, some suck, some are great. There's a broad spectrum. It is not possible to say women are bad or women are this or women are that and women are these. It's not possible. Otherwise, you're an asshole. You can't say the collective. It doesn't make sense. It's also just a lie. So maybe we should just say lying is now not allowed. So if somebody says women are all this, you are a liar. So you're going to be deleted. If men are all this, you are a liar. So therefore you will be removed. None of it. It's not the format for it. It's inappropriate. It's also just a lie. It's not true. You can't say men anything. All men are different. All women are different. You can't say women everything. It's not real. It's social bullshit. It's an absolute fucking divide coming from the top to the bottom, and the sheep are just getting in a fucking line to walk off the cliff. If that is you, the cliff will be being banned from the Discord. There is absolutely zero conversation about this. None. Settle. Men versus women. Very popular in culture today. Again, same thing. This is a bunch of people who know exactly what they're doing and what they want the outcome of what they're doing to be, getting men and women in little lines, beautiful little pretty little sheep, and walking them off the cliff. If you would like to walk off the cliff, that is fine. You will not do it here. If you would like to go men versus women, go to your local church, grab the microphone, and try that shit there. It's not going to happen. So it is not going to happen here. It's fucking over. It's done. And we'll talk about how the process of you being done is going to look if we can't get this shit straight. I want to be careful about how I say this one because of YouTube. Talking about, and this obviously mostly goes one way, abuse of people in a sexual manner. Not the place for it. If you need to talk about that, I completely understand. One, this is not sarcastic at all. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. If that's something someone needs to talk about, therapy is an option. Talking to a pastor is an option. Talking to friends and family is an option. Talking to people in our Discord in a private group is an option. I think that's totally fine. People need to be able to air things out. I get that. Do that. But with people that you trust, people that you know, and people who aren't going to be offended. Also, people who they shouldn't be forced to be a part of that conversation about that topic. Men versus women. No one should be forced to be a part of that conversation. This is a Christian server of spirituality, the Bible, theology, community, self-growth, reading. That's why we're here. Those topics need to be in private conversations. Again, period. There's no conversation. Politics are now done for the time being, in general. Things about Trump will be warnings and then bans. Things about Biden will be warnings and then bans. I don't want to deal with it at all for a while because things need to reset. We have to, in some way, kind of heal the culture. So politics is off limits. Same thing. You got a funny meme about Biden, you send it to somebody in a DM. You want to talk shit about Trump? Awesome. Send it to somebody in a DM. It's no longer allowed in the main board, any of them, even the meme one. And I've already asked somebody to keep an eye on the meme forum. So all of this applies also to memes. Just cut the shit. Go post it on Twitter. People love that over there. You'll get more engagement over there than here. And you also won't disrupt the culture here. It's a win-win. None of that. All of that shit is gone. Okay, so we have rules. We've always had them. The rules read as follows. Number 1, personal attacks will not be tolerated in any sense. This has been broken by a handful of people just in the past couple of days. 2, and I'd say this, whoever is thinking, yeah, that person did do that, you are probably also a part of who I'm talking about, just to be completely honest, blunt, and clear. Number 2, no posting, referencing, tagging, etc. of adult explicit content. I think we're good on that. So we'll skip right past that. 3, arguing is okay if it remains respectful. It's not. It's not. If it does, it's okay. Blatant personal disrespect will not be tolerated. Same thing as number 1. Handful of people completely broke that the past couple of days. Number 4, spamming of personal social medias, blah, 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 don't do it. 5, hate towards a specific religion, denomination, political ideology, etc. Not tolerated. Several broke past couple days. 6, political discussions are only to be had in the culture and news section. This is now gone if you haven't noticed. Culture and news is not visible for the vast majority of people on Discord at this point. It is still visible to some. And I want to be super clear about this. I didn't pick and choose who got to see it. The only people who still see it are supporters. And the reason is I'm not comfortable taking away their ability to go somewhere when they literally pay. That's not cool. That's not cool. I pay to have, it's called Me6 that runs the Discord. It's the whole back end that lets us do cool stuff in Discord. I pay for it. It's not free. I make damn near nothing on YouTube. I spend more money per year than I make doing all of this stuff collectively, by far. So the people who do the supporter thing on Discord, the handful of you who I very, very much appreciate because it helps cut into that overhead. I'm not comfortable taking away culture and news from them. And also there's just very few of them. So if there's 3 people in there talking, I don't see it becoming a problem. If it does, then I'll have to kind of reconsider that. But for the time being, just understand, I did not personally take it away from anyone. There is just one group of people who still have access to it because I was not comfortable taking it away. That's it. 7, this is a truth-seeking community. Included in that is anyone from atheist, agnostic, blah, blah, blah. Different religions are fine. I think we're, for the most part, good on that. 8, personal attacks include calling someone a racist, a bigot, misogynist, or misandrist. This, you don't have to use the word. If you very clearly insinuate that somebody is one of these things, which happens here, because I've been a part of it, honestly, at this point, you're probably just going to get banned. I'm kind of like, the fuse is gone. But we'll talk about the actual process. But it's very likely if you catch me on a bad day, I'm just going to remove you. The rules you accept prior to joining, which are not here, it's a different set, but essentially the same thing. And these are more geared towards what we're talking about tonight. But you accepted them when you got here. You signed the paper. They're going to be enforced. This stuff is going to be enforced super hard moving forward. because the culture that is happening here, I don't really care to be a part of. And even when we had a community that was making shit tons of money, I had no problem shutting it down. So I have no problem shutting this down if this becomes poisonous culture. It's the opposite of what the whole goal of us spending our time and putting our attention into this is. I'm not going to be a part of it becoming something like that. This is not social media. If somebody breaks a rule, you are to report the broken rule. It's not a DM. I don't want a DM. It's not a DM to Ghost. It's not a DM to Mystic. It's not a DM to Kat or Shannon or anybody. That does not count, because I'm literally going to count. You need to use the report function. The report function brings you to this page. It goes over the rules again. Then you hit file report. Then all of the people who have moderation and myself abilities, it pops up for us. And then we see, and we'll respond to you. And it's this whole back and forth where you get to talk to somebody about what's going on. If whoever accepts your ticket is somebody you're not comfortable having that conversation with, then you can DM me and I'll take the ticket. And then you and I can go back and forth about whatever's going on. But this needs to be used because I want there to actually be a process, because in no way do I ever want to just remove people and I don't want to remove people without there being a very clear process. Like, hey, this just happened. That's strike one. This just happened. That's strike two. This is your third. Okay, I'm sorry, but you're gone. It needs to function properly. So most of this is to the people with the freaking blue names. Y'all specifically, if you see something, report it. Just because you're moderator doesn't mean you don't report. In fact, it's kind of your job, right? Like if you're going to take it, and if you don't want it, let me know and I'll remove you. We don't pay much for you to do this. And by that, I mean, there's no pay for anybody for anything. So if you don't want to moderate, that's fine. I totally understand. I don't want to moderate. I get it. So let me know and I'll remove you from that. Otherwise, all of us hopefully expect that of you. That's a job you signed up for. So you need to do it. Otherwise, let me know and we'll pull you out. If a topic arises, and then I'll go through the comments in a minute. I just need to get through all this crap. If a topic arises that has become hot, you have two options. Number one, you can request a public debate on the topic. So the most recent topic of my understanding was a disgruntled conversation between about 5 people about basically men versus women, in a sense, in a very general sense. The specifics, you already know what I'm talking about. In a general sense, though, it became men versus women. The core topic of that, the next time that happens, the first time it gets hot, hopefully a moderator or myself, your post will just be deleted. And then you'll get a message in the same channel saying, hey, I deleted your post. This is why. That's it. If you continue, you're going to be suspended for a day where you won't have access. If you continue again, you'll be permanently removed forever and ever and ever and ever. The second option, you can go to a different channel for a new conversation. So when hot topics arise, you can either request a public debate in which we will set that up, and it will be a voice channel in Discord, not YouTube, a voice channel in Discord with a moderator where 2 people or more than 2 people can literally debate the topic. So if it's should women be pushed into being housewives versus driving for a career? Because that's what the topic was. If that becomes the topic, because that's not why we're here, especially if it becomes an argument, it's not why we're here. If you can have it respectfully, cool. You're not. So therefore, it is not allowed. If that arises again, and the minute it becomes in any way anything other than a conversation, the first shit post will be deleted. You'll be told, hey, this is why I deleted that. And then if you want, you can say, hey, I would like to publicly debate. And if the other person or the other parties are like, yeah, I'm down, let's do that. Let's do a Thursday night public debate on whether women should be pushed into being housewives, taking care of the family, supporting their husband, or whether they should be pushed into driving for a career. Or can they balance it? Because that was a part of that conversation too. Can women do it all? We want a debate. So therefore, we have a debate. There will be a moderator, probably 2, and debate on. If not a debate, go to a different channel, talk about something else. It's not complicated. And I'm going to post everything that I've said basically in announcements, so you can always refer back to it. If you violate a rule, this is now the procedure. And again, moderators, this is your job, yo. So if you don't want it, you need to let me know so I can ask somebody else to do it. Because I'll be real aggravated if the shit continues and a moderator is sitting there watching it or replying or being a part of it, and you're not doing anything to stop it. Whether you're sitting and observing it or you're actually engaging with it, which means you're also breaking the rules. Either way, that's shit. So if you can't contain yourself, or that's not something you want to deal with, and you'd rather just be popping in whenever you want, not having any responsibility, totally get it. Let me know and I will ask somebody else to do it. Otherwise, this is how it's going to be dealt with. So super important for moderators, but also super important for everybody, because this is how it's going to happen. If you violate a rule, your post will be, again, deleted by somebody on staff. Then you will receive the message in the same channel publicly. So everybody will see it. It will be not rude. It will be very polite, just explaining why the post was deleted. Hey, I deleted your post because we are not to have conversations about how women are better than men or men are better than women. That's it. I would advise against then starting another argument with the moderator. It's probably not a great idea. I could see that unraveling into something not great. Yeah. Okay. Number 2. After you've been warned about something and you do it again, you will be suspended for 24 hours. The moderator will give you a warning, but I don't know if you'll be able to see it unless you're online in that very moment. Maybe Mystic knows. I don't know specifically how it works, but I know how to do it now because I learned how to do it. You'll be suspended for 24 hours. So the moderator should warn you, like, hey, we're suspending you for this reason. But I just don't know whether you'll be able to see it or not. I don't know. You'll probably see it when you come back after 24 hours. Don't know. If anybody knows, then put it in the chat. Number 3, if you do it again, so this is, you did 1, you were warned. You did 2, you were suspended for 24 hours. Now you're coming back and doing 3. Men are better than women. Women suck. You're suspended for 7 days. That is your absolute last call. 7 days. Anything that happens when you come back from 7 days, you are permanently removed forever and ever and ever. Amen. That's it. I don't see any other way to deal with it. I really don't. Everybody needs to be an adult. Everybody needs to grow the fuck up. And if you can't have a conversation in an at least mostly, because I get how it is, in an at least mostly respectful manner, mostly, people are going to be sarcastic. Get over it. If it crosses the line from sarcastic to something atrocious, that's like, it's not going to happen. But the saving grace of all this is you're just not allowed to talk about any of that shit at all anymore. So now even if it doesn't get super hot, right now, none of it's allowed at all, which is what I was saying in the beginning. The topics that have had issues over the past week, basically, plus political stuff in general, is just not allowed at all for now. And then once we can all get our shit together and act like adults again, then I'd like all that stuff to come back. Because a lot of that stuff is really important and we need to be able to talk about it, but we need to be able to talk about it like adults and not in a horrendously embarrassing manner. Because that to me is what that was. It was really embarrassing. And that's not the only one. I have now reviewed things from up to 3 months ago because all this popped off and I got a bunch of links to things from different people. So it's not just that. All of it to me was really embarrassing. It's like when I see my kid do something that she doesn't understand that it's embarrassing, but I understand that it's embarrassing. And I'm like, damn, I feel for you. You're so ignorant to how embarrassed I am for you. It's painful. That's how I felt. That's the long and short of it. So what I'm going to do is in the announcements, I'm going to post all of the what happens, how are we going to deal with broken rules, all of this stuff. So if a topic arises that becomes hot, you have the 2 options to request a public debate, which then a moderator will bring it to me and we'll set up a debate, which will probably be Thursday nights. We'll probably replace Thursday night with the public debate. And maybe we'll start with a Bible study to get everybody's head right. Perhaps we'll do that. And then the other portion here is if you violate a rule, what will happen? So those are now in the announcements. You can always refer back to them. I'll link to them in the rules also, so it's easy to get to them. But just make sure you're up to date on the rules. It's not a long read. Okay, it's a pretty short read, but it's also pretty specific. Oh, here, I already put it. So how to deal with broken rules. Deleted by staff, suspended for 24 hours, suspended 7 days, removed from the server. So it's also right there. So what I'll do instead, I'll put something about the public debate, is how to request a public debate, what that looks like. We'll get that all kind of sorted out. But it would be a private voice channel in Discord, not on YouTube. So it'd be totally private in the group. It stays here. But it would be basically just like what we do already on Thursday. It'd be a stage. So you have a moderator on the stage, and then you have 2 parties at least, if not more. If it was a group, like this last thing that I am referred to, had like 5 or 6 people involved in it, which is fine. Let's do it. Bring it to the stage. Don't be a little keyboard warrior, baby girls and boys. Let's have the debate. I think it's great. I think it's something we should do. That's the deal. If anybody has any problems with this, speak now or forever hold your peace. In Discord, it is a stage today because I didn't want to have to deal with muting anybody. So if you want to talk, you need to raise your hand.
I'm cool with debates, Joe.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. It's a good solution. I think it's a great way to kind of talk through it. Or at least even better this. It's at least a proper format for having those conversations versus having them in the Bible section or even honestly in the culture and news section. It doesn't need to be there. It doesn't need to be in conspiracy. It doesn't need to be in any of the spirituality. It shouldn't be there. Those things like stay on topic. And again, like the biggest part of that is I'm not like talking to you, Ghost, but the biggest part of it is like the other people who join the server. Ghost told me yesterday, he sees people come in, hang out for like 10 minutes and then leave. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's because they're reading things like what we're referring to tonight and then deciding to leave. But I could sure as hell believe if it was a part of it, at least for some of them. If somebody had come in during that argument and been like, hey, what's going on here? And then read that it's a bunch of people bitching and moaning and complaining at each other, arguing, I would have been like, yeah, fuck this. I'm not going to stay here. What kind of church is this? I'm fucking out of here. 100%. It's just like, keep the channels clean. We have formats for debate. We debate live all the time. And because it's live and you can hear each other, we've had some that are kind of tense, but like, it's just better. It's just better. Then the channels stay clean. Nobody who doesn't want to be a part of that shit is like, yo, I'm here to talk about the Bible. Why is this happening? I don't want this. It keeps things where they should be. If you guys have any suggestions about how to structure the debate, but to me, it's like pretty simple. You bring the people up, you have a moderator or 2, and then you just do basically what we do on Thursdays. But any suggestions from anybody, I'm down. Like throw them out now or send them to me on Discord and I'll go through them. We'll do voting on all of it like always. I basically never decide anything here. I do polls for everything. I want the majority to be comfortable with what's going on.
I think it would be better if it was just like a conversation or like a Socratic dialogue or something.
Yeah, agreed. For sure. But the reality is like shit gets hot sometimes. For everybody in the freaking world, man. Like I get it. I get it for sure. Sometimes things just get kind of hot. Because either somebody was rude and sometimes they're not, and that's the fucked up thing about text. It's like sometimes somebody comes across their text as a total piece of shit. But if you were talking to them on the phone or in a voice channel, you'd be like, oh, they didn't say it like that at all. But sometimes they did. And then, same result. But I think like some arguing is going to happen. I'm not ignorant to the fact that like us talking tonight is not necessarily going to change the fact that in a week or 2 weeks or a month, that's going to happen again. The only thing I'd expect to be different is how it's dealt with. So the people who have the abilities need to shut it down. And if you're not a moderator, but you see that beginning, you need to send a DM to all of the moderators. I don't care if you send it to everybody. It's like, again, it's the job. If you don't want it, don't do it. I get it. Nobody pays you. But if you want it, it's your job. So anybody who's not a moderator, but you see some stuff going down, make a group DM to me and everybody else who has the ability to deal with it, and send it to everybody. You send a message link. So anybody who doesn't know how to do that, if you come to any channel and on your phone, it's going to be the long hold with your finger, but you long hold or you right click and you go down to copy message link. And what that does is when you send that to somebody, it doesn't just send them to the theology forum, it sends them to the exact post that you're linking them to. So they can pick up exactly where you wanted them to see it. I would hope like this is everybody's responsibility, dude. This is like it's supposed to be a church. It's the whole thing we've kind of prided ourselves on. So everybody, if you see it's if you see something, say something. You need to say something. And then we can just cut it right there and we can all move on. The other bit is if you see something, don't engage with it. Be the adult. Be the bigger person and just roll on. Go look at something else. Give them a thumbs up sarcastically and then move on. It just shouldn't be that difficult. All right, I'm going to look through. If anybody else has anything or wants to speak, then do the hand raising thing. I don't want it to be me lecturing without at least everybody understanding they have the ability to come up and voice their opinion. This is very much open format. Otherwise, I'm going to try to catch up on the comments real quick. And that's the bulk of it. So if you have better stuff to do, please feel free. Thursday night will be Bible study, right? It'll be Bible study with some other topics pending. And if it becomes conversation, it becomes conversation. But every Thursday and Sunday, for anybody who's not been around, we're just going to do what we did tonight, where there's a Bible study and then we'll talk after about whatever. So you can come with the topic, you can come with a different Bible verse, you can come with whatever. And if enough people want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. But every one of these is going to start with Bible study now. And honestly, I think there's no better time than now, because it's probably just generally going to be a good thing. Drew. It's good to see you, Drew. Came back for the drama, huh? Sounds like you. Going back to listen to music. That was a good call for Graves there. To be honest, I've been afraid to do things as a moderator because the rules weren't clear enough. Fair enough. Fair point. Fair point. I totally get that. So hopefully now, like, everything's super clear. And again, if you need clarity, go to the rules. The rules are at the top, and then what we do with the broken rules are at the bottom. So specifically, like Mystic, Ghost, whoever, Shannon, whoever has the moderator stuff, like this part is the you. So you would delete the post. You would then message them in the same channel publicly, because this is a church, so this shit goes down publicly. And you will just very respectfully, objectively, like an adult and a respectful person, you will let them know this is why I deleted your post. No emotion, no nothing. It's robot. This is why I deleted your post. Then suspend for 24 hours, 7 days, and then you're done for good. But it's all very simple now. So hopefully, fair point, Mystic, and I hope it's more clear. It's something I should have done a long time ago, to be honest. So that's 100% my failure. I've just kind of, I'm just not around enough. So like when I do see it, I'm like, they're just arguing, it's whatever. But it's like, no, it's not. It's a little bit more than that. Shannon said, I hate that this has been going on for so long that we already lost 2 amazing people. Yeah, fair. We've lost we've lost a few good people along the way. But also that's just going to happen. The reality. You can't please everybody. You can't make everybody happy. Going to be enforced because we're all tired of the craziness. Yeah, it's got to be enforced. That's why I'm saying, if you see something, and whether you see a moderator there or not, you don't know if they're already doing something. So if you see something at all, just send it to all the moderators and me. Just send it in a group DM. Here's the message link. I think this breaks a rule. I'm down with that. Otherwise, like, use the report thing, which same thing. You'll open a ticket and then you'll put the message link in there and be like, hey, this is happening. The reports are anonymous. Like to the rest of the board, we know who you are, but the reports are anonymous to everybody else. Nobody will know who reported them. But at this point, I don't care if you just DM everybody. Just whatever works. Just get it across, because yes, I do want it to be enforced. It needs to be healthy, man. Like, we just have to stop. Got to refocus, and then I want to bring those topics back again. Like I said, I think politics and the issues between men and women, like specifically, because those were some of the recent issues, I think they're important, and I think they're things that we should talk about genuinely. And honestly, like, maybe Thursday we should talk about those things in an open forum setting. Maybe I'll post a poll for that, and if everybody wants to do that, we can do that, and we can air out that most recent, little tit for tat and see what's up. Because I think these things should be talked about. I don't want to like stifle it, because that only makes it worse, in my opinion. But at the same time, like, you have to have the general health of everybody, and we're losing that. And I think everybody's exhausted. Though I think everybody's exhausted. So the debate format, if we need to have these conversations, is what we'll do. Otherwise, it's just radio silence on those topics, which again is not my preference. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's good. I think it causes more problems than it solves. And I think it, in many cases, causes more division. Which is why the debate thing, I think, is kind of the alleviation of that. Radio silence in normal day to day, but then, have an hour packed full of let's break this shit down and get upset, like, have emotion, do your thing. But then after that, we're done. It's over. If you want to do it again in a month, cool, we'll do it again in a month. Same topic. Don't care. But at least it's isolated to, like, this is when we're talking about that, and then it's gone. And then when we're on Discord just in general, like, this is a church. It's the purpose of this. It's why everybody's here. If it's not, I'd prefer if you left. Genuinely. Please leave. Really simple to me. I strongly feel as though being respectful would be the number one way to avoid all of it. Yeah, I agree. 100%. The reality, though, is that not everybody can do it. Or just that not everybody's willing to do it. Sometimes it's just like a choice. Some people like to argue. Some people just get caught up in the argument. Like, people are people, so it's going to happen. That's why, yes, preference, be respectful, avoid it altogether. Reality, the 20, 30% when that doesn't happen, how do we deal with it? Well, now we all are clear. And hopefully, open and shut. All done. I would love to talk about troubles pertaining to men versus women. Talking about big issues can make us upset, and keeping it respectful can chill that out. Yeah. If we want to do the thing, we can do it on Thursday. And that's it. But then it needs to stay there. Rodriguez said, I think, unfortunately, respect has to be clearly defined. There's too much gray that's happening. I mean, respect will always be gray, which is why there are rules. Which is why if a rule is broken, you copy and paste the rule. You copy and paste the broken rule message link. And then we will decide, does that fit with the rule being broken, or does this not really constitute a rule being broken? Is this somebody just not liking what somebody posted? Because there's a fine line. Respect is not objective. A lot of it is. But some people feel disrespected at something that is ridiculous. That's somebody, being emotional or having a personal something towards it. There's too much nuance to that. A lot of it is gray. But some parts of respect are absolutely objective. That's why if you can't be an adult, just leave the conversation. Like, for fuck's sake. If you can't be grown up and you can't engage with the topic, like, at least some, again, because people get hot when they argue, at least mostly, like, as a conversation, don't do it. Just don't do it. Yeah, I agree with that. Blanket statements and respect can't coexist. That's true. And that's why I read the things I read about women suffering, men being bad, women being bad, men versus women versus men. They're all general. It's all a bunch of people saying men this and women that and women these and men those, and like, shut up. Not all men do anything at all, ever. Not all women are any sort of way, ever. So many of the most common tropes about women, Cat completely crushes. Therefore, it's a lie. Yeah, actually, I think I am going to add blanket statements in general to the rules. I'm glad that happened because, yes, those things, they can't work. Anybody making blanket statements about groups of people or blanket statements about an individual or really about anything, it's not true. It's a lie. And we don't lie here. So everybody should personally work on the blanket statement thing, because that has been a pretty significant problem for like a lot of people. A lot of people is women this and men that, and Republicans this and Democrats that. Nobody here cares. I'll say that for everybody. Nobody cares. Nobody cares how you feel about Biden. Nobody cares how you feel about Trump. Nobody cares if you think all women are this way, and nobody gives a shit if you think all men are bad. Nobody cares, because all of that is pretend. It's all pretend. No matter which side of that argument you're on, you are lying. Therefore, it is no longer allowed. So don't do it. Anybody. Right wing, left wing, man, woman, don't give a shit. It's all going to be treated exactly the same, because it is all lies. Respect can exist when things like that are removed. It can. And if you personally can't be respectful, be emotionally intelligent enough to know, I am not in an emotional state right now to be able to be respectful to this person because I think they're absolutely insane. I'm trying to use something pretty heavy. I think they're insane. Be emotionally intelligent enough to say, I am probably shouldn't be engaging in this because I am not a 3-year-old child, and I can identify within my own self that I'm not feeling my best. I'm not feeling super emotionally stable, and I'm feeling really negatively about this person. So I'm going to be an adult, and I'm not going to engage in the conversation. I'm going to go to somewhere else. I'm going to go to social media or go to Twitter. There are many places to air disgruntlements and to be a child. It just isn't going to be here. And it's really just not that hard. It's really not. At this phase of my life, I think I pop off on someone on Instagram maybe once or twice a year, because I have the ability to say, shit, I'm being an asshole. I'm being rude. What they said really pissed me off, and now what I've typed is super sarcastic, so I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to move on with my day, because that person has nothing to do with my life. And even in this setting, none of us know each other, for the most part. Actually. So if you wanted to escape someone here that you don't like, it's not really that hard. Just don't engage. Block them if you have to. You're allowed to do that. If you don't block somebody, but you bitch about them every day, you're kind of the problem. You're not using something that you have access to not have to deal with somebody. So don't deal with them. At the same time, those same people who are posting a bunch of shit and in the Bible section, or even in conspiracy, or even in culture and news, that has nothing to do with culture and news. It's something purely cultural from a social aspect of the plights between groups of people, racism, sexism, the divide between Republicans and Democrats. Who fucking cares? That's what you have to talk about. Like, that's the substance of what you want to talk about, is rah, 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 fuck those people. Grow up. How about what's actually going on in any of those topics? What is actually happening? Because there's a ton of shit. The child says, awful thing, bad people. Awful circumstances, evil people. Fucking grow up. Or don't be here. I'm at my wit's end, y'all. I hope that's super, super obvious. And I assume that it is. There's going to be a whole new human being in this house. Yes, the baby. That's an exciting thing. Let's all talk about Nat's baby and whether it's going to be cuter than the current really cute baby, or it's going to be less cute. You can't really say that, though. Like, even if that's true about somebody's baby, you can't really say that. You have to say they're all equally cute. Both babies are equally cute. But hers honestly probably will be. Nat has one of the cutest babies that I've ever seen in my life. It's really kind of disgusting. It's really gross how cute her baby is. Anything else? Anything else? And if I missed anything that you put in YouTube chat, please just copy and paste it right now. Or raise your hand, which I haven't looked at. So if you've been waiting patiently, I'm sorry. No. Okay, cool. Yeah, last chance. We'll hang out for like another minute. But I'm serious about the blanket statement thing because that was a good point, because that's something that drives me insane. Again, from either side. If you are a Democrat and you make blanket statements, you are breaking a rule. If you are a Republican and you're a right-wing extremist and you make blanket statements, you are also breaking a rule. If you are a man and doing it, broken rule. If you are a woman and doing it, broken rule. It is equal. Blanket statements about groups of people is lying. It's lying. It's statistically and mathematically impossible in 99.999% of cases. Therefore, that makes you a liar, no matter which side you're on. So that will be added as number 9 to the rules. And I'm, as the kids would say, dead ass serious about this. It causes division for no reason, because not all of anybody does anything. Because we are all individual. It's even more wild for a Christian to say that shit. We're all fearfully and wonderfully made as individuals, but all fucking Republicans are this way. And all women suck and just should be at home in the kitchen. Good God, what kind of Christian are you? Jesus Christ. God help me. I'm very sorry about the swearing. But I just, the filter's off for the evening. Anything else? Anything else? Anything else? How do you do the emojis, man? I'm so illiterate with all this. Is there enough? Oh, I had to copy them from another website. Sorry, didn't mean to. No, it's a good derail. No, you're not biased. You do have a very cute baby. It's gross. It's gross how adorable she is. If respect is not served, just walk away. Not worth arguing and aggravating. 100%. The problem is humans are drawn to it. And the funny thing is that like it's like 8 people in the group, all different personality types, and they're all doing it. Like you're all doing it. So it just kind of goes to show that in certain situations you may be tired, and that causes you to do it. You may have not eaten enough today, whereas otherwise you would have ignored the conversation. But because you were super hungry, you had it's so interesting how much nuance there is to why people do what they do. But it's on display in small groups like this, because we all see each other every day. There's not a lot of us here. But yes, that is the ideal situation. Lilith, walk away. Just walk away. If you feel like you're being disrespected, one, report it, but then walk away. Because then if you disrespect them back, you're both in trouble. You both did it. When you could have just reported it and left. Adult thing, child thing. Adult thing, child thing. Thou shalt not lie in Discord chat. Yes. I should set up the rules like written in old old English. King James version. I'm definitely going to do that at some point. Definitely going to do that. Make everybody read that. It's as bad as the FBI given statistics. That's true. We've learned that your swearing means you mean it. Fair enough. I guess that's good. Mystic reminds me, like my dad, he is so sweet and soft-spoken, so if he yells or swears, I listen. Yeah, I think my kid has heard me yell like maybe like a few times. Maybe. I'm not a yeller, man. Never have been. I'm not an arguer by nature. I just don't care for it. I don't think it solves anything. I just never have really understood it. Like, why argue? Why yell? Why do you have to yell at me? Why? What are you accomplishing? You just look like an ass. You look like a child. You look like a 3-year-old having a fucking tantrum. Especially when you do it to somebody who is very calm. You just look so ridiculous. I've just never understood it. All right, 30 seconds. I'm out. I'm going to try to get some time with Kat before the week of hell. Again, anybody who's missed what's going on, Thursday nights, everything is different. Saturday nights are dead for the time being. My life circumstances have changed drastically. Sunday night, nothing changes. 6 p.m. Central Time, Bible study like normal, and then any open discussion after that you guys want to do. Again, bring a different verse from a different book. Bring Enoch. Bring a different topic about something that has nothing to do with what we're doing a Bible study about. Or we can talk about the actual study, like spiritual gifts. On any other night, we would have had a great conversation about spiritual gifts, but we had other business to attend to. Thursday night will be exactly the same. I will have something from the Bible set up to read, same as we do on Sunday, but then there will be time at the end to talk about whatever y'all want to talk about. Again, emphasizing like the church. We should be talking more about whatever
Hey
needs to
Joe,
be talked about. Yes, sir.
I just thought of a rule idea, and you can tell me what you think.
Yeah.
For anyone who uses like any kind of language that is designed to squash a debate or squash a conversation, like you couldn't possibly understand this because you have an immutable characteristic.
I did see that. Yeah, actually. Yeah. Let me figure out how to.
Yeah, that's a hard one to word, but I mean that one is at the core of so many disagreements.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, because one of the ones I was reading, not even from this most recent one, but one from a couple months ago that got sent to me yesterday, it was that too, and I saw that also in the most recent one. So yeah, figuring out how to word it. Yeah, but I'll put it on there. Thank you, because
Can I be
Cool,
honest?
cool.
Like,
that was a problem. Go ahead.
so I have like seen people kind of use that, and I never knew what to call it, but that kind of language. And so whenever I commented about sarcasm, I think that's what I mean. Like, whenever we're having like a serious discussion or a serious argument, just using any kind of sarcasm, like it's like, what am I supposed to say to that? You know what I'm saying? So in like multiple, there's like multiple ways to have that kind of attitude. Does that make sense?
Kind try to explain it. Try to explain it a different way. I think I might get
Like
it, but
saying, you would never understand, or, well, I guess I just can't understand. Like, I don't really I don't know what type of attitude that is, if that's called sarcasm or something, but like in general, on both sides, we just like that just shouldn't be a thing in serious discussions. That's what I mean. And I don't know how to vocalize that.
no, I get what you're saying. I agree with that. So that's on the responsibility of the replier to. So here, I guess this would if this is going to become a rule, which I just wrote it down. I'll figure out how to say it. But basically, the gist is this: if I told Mystic, she's or yeah, I was just going to say Mystic, you will never understand what it's like to be a father because you are not a man. So in no way could you ever possibly conceptualize with your human brain as a very intelligent young woman, ever could you even consider what it would be like to be a father. There is some degree of truth that no, she is not a man. She never will be, regardless of what you believe. She also is not ever going to be a father because she's never going to have a child as a man. Those things are true. But to say somebody doesn't get an opinion about something because they don't have, like Go said, the immutable characteristics that put you in that category is really childish. It's super childish to say somebody's not allowed to have an opinion because they are not that thing. You are allowed to have an opinion, even if you are not that thing. You may not, Mystic may never understand exactly what it's like to be a father, a male who has produced a child, but she could certainly, with her human brain as a very smart young woman, sit and think about what maybe it would be like to be a father. She could certainly do that because she has a brain. And it's specifically her. She's very smart. But even dumb people could do that. That's what they're talking about in case you didn't fully grasp it. So then to Mystic's thing, if somebody then replies sarcastically, don't do that. Because now this is a rule. So now if you reply sarcastically, you have also broken the rule. So what should happen is if I tell Mystic she could never possibly understand what it's like to be a man or a father, she would report me. Period. She'd send the message and that would be it. Because now that is breaking the rule. What she would not do is say, yeah, I'll just never understand whatever. Be sarcastic back in response. Because then you're being a part of it. And if you're a part of it, then you're a part of it. So then like the consequence should be the same for both of you. You shouldn't be allowed to stoke the flame that you are trying to extinguish because it's illogical. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
That totally makes sense.
Yeah, that was a good point. So I'll figure out how to like word all of that. Because yeah, those were both like good points. So
Yeah. I was
go ahead.
no, I was gonna talk about VC debate.
Okay. Yeah.
I was thinking another way to avoid all that is if someone wants to do a VC debate, we should set up a thing where we can give like a 5-second rundown or something on what type of arguments are okay, because a lot of the ones I've been seeing are so illogical and would just not fly. Like they're total fallacies, you know?
True.
Like in terms of debates, because that like the whole well, you wouldn't understand. Like doesn't that doesn't happen in like a debate class or something. So
Right. So I guess we
that's what
have
I'm saying. So we should do like a little rundown, like, hey, these are the things that you can't, like, you need to form your sentences in certain ways, or like, you know.
Is that something you think you could do, or at least like put a template together?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, do it, and then maybe we can all kind of have like a group discussion about it. That's a good point, though. Yeah, because I'd hate for us to all waste our time having a debate about something that's literally really stupid. If
Yeah.
it's differing
I just
opinions, then cool. But if it's actually a dumb thing, let's not do that.
Yeah, because for me, like, honestly, I would talk about anything. I don't care about the topic, whatever. It's just the things that really it's just the attitude or the delivery or how we talk to how we do it is just what makes me upset. And then when
Right.
I'm upset, I don't think things through. So
Right. Everybody. Tell my first instinct when I see somebody being an asshole to me on social media, which is very often, is like I want to light that person up. It's just the initial snap response. So then it takes everybody having the emotional intelligence to be like, I am not 5. I can be upset and move on from what is making me upset. I am not ruled by somebody on the internet, because that's super embarrassing. If you are anybody, it's really, really embarrassing. It's like, so it's a personal thing. But I hope that everybody can just like not be I like sarcasm, but I think everybody here is adult enough to know like when sarcasm is appropriate and when you're being sarcastic in order to be an asshole. They're two totally separate things. And I think some people are sarcastic kind of by nature, and people need to just kind of understand that. And some people, let's be like, are annoying by nature. Neither is really a reason to remove somebody from a church. But if the annoying person or the sarcastic person or whoever the person is then also breaking rules on top of it, then it all comes back to the rule. So what I also don't want to see is like people reporting people because they're annoyed by them, or people reporting people because they have a sarcastic personality, because those things would not constitute broken rules. The broken rules would be like outward disrespect with you sending the message link and all that stuff. I don't know. A lot of it is like, I don't see this being super easy. The next time like an argument happens, I don't see this being a really easy thing to deal with. I'm just trying, and I think it'll be some trial and error of like, okay, well, the rules covered all of this, but now they also need to cover this, or this rule needs to be reworded in this way. And if anybody is like, I actually think rule 7 should be reworded this way because it kind of covers things more specifically. It's like, it's all intended to protect like the group and keep culture good. So anybody who has suggestions on any of that, or if you see things progress and after that you're like, wow, that makes me think about what we talked about with the blanket statements, and I think this should be added to it, or I think this should be removed from it, any of that, I hope that everybody is like super vocal, and then we can all talk about it and change it. It all needs to stay like healthy, but it's not going to be easy. I don't think it's going to be easy, because there's a lot of different personalities here. There just are. There's a lot of very different people here, and that's a good thing, as long as we can all learn to live cohesively. Just remember, you can do group DMs. You can. I can also set it up so you can start a voice channel and you can decide who comes into it, whether you're a moderator or not. So if the floof wants to do a voice channel and only let 2 people in, we can set it up so you can do that. Like, there are things that we can do so that people can gather together in their little group if they want and not have to deal with other things. It's possible. So there should never be a reason to bring that bullshit into like public spaces. There's a lot possible. That, again, if you want something in Discord, let me know. I pay a lot of money for the service that we use that lets us do cool stuff. So I'm sure I can figure out how to do it, or I'm sure Mystic knows how to do it. We'll figure it out. You just gotta let us know. Nat, have a lovely night. If you're not already gone. I think everybody should take a debate class. I agree with that. I really, really, really agree with that. Yeah. Well, I hope it'll be good. It'll be interesting to see what Mystic comes up with as far as kind of a template of how that looks.
I have a question, Joe, when it comes to before the debate.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if there's a way, like there's like a standard cutoff point where like if there's multiple people or even two people going back and forth, like is there like a 3 response cutoff point and then it can go to the debate? Because I could see it kind of, you know what I'm saying, dragging out
Well,
and not actually. Go ahead.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So my hope is that it should never even get to like a back and forth. It's going to, but it shouldn't.
Right.
Because
Which
that
is-
first post should be shut down. Which also, like, nobody should take that personally, because all of it's new. So if your post gets deleted, just move on with your day. It's nothing against you. It's not going to do anything. Just don't do it. But the whole point is that it gets shut down right then. And then, like, if your post gets deleted, Rodriguez, by me, say I delete your post, and I'm like, hey, like, that's rule 7. Let's, move on. Then you would reply back to me and say, okay, well, that's something I'd really like to have a debate on. Can we do that? That's it. And then we'd set up the debate. That's kind of so what I'd probably do then, and we'll have to figure out how this works. What I would probably do until we figure out how it works, I'd probably put the 2 parties or whoever was involved in the back and forth or whatever it is, I'd put those people plus like the moderators in a private DM channel and be like, okay, this is the setup for, debate number 1. And this is what we're doing. And this is what day. Does the day work for everybody? Here are the rules. Like Mystic's going to put together some kind of template for the debates. Like, this is how this works. If you violate any of this, we're going to shut the debate down. I don't know. But that's kind of like how I picture it happening.
All right. And which brings me to my next point that I think Jules asked earlier. Can you just specify who the moderators are so that way we know how that works and contact?
Yes. So you can always see who has user groups on Discord by going in. I think in your phone it's the top right too, but it says show member list. And then this is categorized by user groups. So at the top will be the admin, so you'll see me, and then it'll be moderators, Kat and Montana are there, and then the supporters, and then verified speakers, and so on and so on. But I think you can refine the search.
Where it says tattoo Theist, you're saying?
No, in the top right. It's like 2 little people. It says member list. I mean, I could also like put it in the rules. I can say these are the moderators. Maybe I should do that to make it easier. Because I see who's online, but I don't know how you refine the search to extend to people who are not online. If you scroll through, you can see like dark blue names, and then those are the moderators. But I'll just put all the moderators in how do we deal with broken rules in the rules section. So I'll just say like list of all of your moderators are here. So if you need to get a hold of somebody or whatever, I'll just list everybody right here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, that was, I'm glad you pointed that out. I thought it was easier than that to see all of them at once, but it's not. Okay, anything else, guys? Otherwise, I'm all set. Oh my God, you said my name for the first time and it caught me off guard. Well, earlier when I said missed, I like got confused and I'm like, shit, because it was Tana for a while and then it was Montana and then I'm just used to you being Mystic, man. I don't think I'll ever not see you as that. It'll be ingrained in my brain. All right, cool. I'm out. I love you guys. I hope I didn't offend anybody because I genuinely didn't mean to at all. None of this was personal. Honest to God, none of it was personal. It really is like for everybody. 100%.
I think this was super good, super solid.
I agree. So if anybody has any issues, complaints, concerns, hot, what are they called? Burning desires, then just let somebody know. I'll put all the moderators in the rules at the bottom. So you just have a list of moderators. So if you need anything, make sure you actually understand like what the rules are, because I hope that they're all going to be enforced like pretty diligently. so that things can be better. And then hopefully we have debates. I honestly hope we do it because I think it'd be really good. So Thursday, I am going to post a poll tonight or tomorrow to see if you guys want to have the debate that was the argument that sparked this on Thursday. Montana is going to put together like a template for kind of how the debates work. So if that's not done, no pressure at all. But if it's not done by Thursday, we'll just kind of approach it how we normally do. So I'll put the topic in the poll and everything, and I'll explain it. But so if we want to hash that out and just kind of get it out of the way, we can do it. Otherwise, it'll just be Bible study and then other stuff after. But I'm out. I'm going to go spend some time with Kat. I love you guys, genuinely, and I'm glad we could do this. I think it will be beneficial. Thank you, and good night.